Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Today we are starting a new series of videos on SPSS. It is primarily for the students of MPhil and PhD working on different research projects in social sciences. However, it is for anybody, everybody, for information if they have the interest. In social sciences, most commonly, two types of analysis, numerical analysis, are used: descriptive analysis and inferential analysis. Descriptive analysis refers to the computation of statistics for the variables individually without any discussion of their interrelationships, while the inferential statistics is only about testing the hypothesis about the relationships of variables in the research model. In social sciences, most of the MPhil and PhD scholars, they either don't have any knowledge of statistics, or if they know statistics formally or informally, they mostly have no experience of using statistical tools in social sciences. They have no idea of how the qualities are converted into numbers and then statistical tools are used to answer the research questions related to the variables and their interrelationships. Therefore, we have developed this video for a beginner who knows something about statistics but not everything. However, after watching this video, the student will be in a position to show familiarity with the statistical tools and the SPSS, and in a better position to restart everything with focus and more attention and understanding. To achieve this objective of introductory video, we have developed the following contents as per the research process of numerical analysis, that where from it begins and where it ends. Most commonly in social sciences, the numerical analysis begins with the questionnaire. A bundle of field questionnaires from the field or from the stakeholders of the research project is collected. This questionnaire has to be converted into a data matrix. The researcher prepares a data matrix which simply refers to a table of rows and columns. In every row, one questionnaire is posted, while in every column, every question and the variables are placed at their appropriate columns. We shall discuss this later. After the decisions about data matrix, that what shall be the number of columns and the rows, the researcher goes to the SPSS. SPSS works in two views, common sense views, or modes, that as we start SPSS, the variable view comes up and we have to tell the software about what are our variables and what are their attributes or questions related to the variables. Once the variable view is used and variables and the questions are placed in their appropriate columns, then we move to the second mode or view of SPSS, data view. And then we start posting the answers from every questionnaire into the data matrix. Once the data is posted into the data matrix, then we compute the computed variables. Computed variable simply means that in analysis we use variables only. Analyses are performed on variables, not their attributes. So, as we have said before, in data matrix we place every question separately in a separate column. So the variables which are representing those questions are the questions which are representing the variables. They are computed by statistically measuring their averages or X bar. Computed variable, for example, self-confidence. If it has 11 questions, then 11 questions or answers to the 11 questions will be summed up and divided by 11, and the resultant X bar or average will be placed in the column of computed variable self-confidence. So, as the computed variables are there, the data matrix is ready for analysis because all the data related to all the variables of the project, if they have been posted into the data matrix, then it is ready for going further into the analysis stage. So we start with descriptive analysis, and as we have already explained that descriptive analysis is the computation of statistics about the variables and not their relationships. So descriptive statistics will be computed about the attributes of the respondents or variables referring to the respondents, demographic attributes, how many officers, how many are the staff members, which is the frequency of highly educated and less educated members of the respondents, and so on. While descriptive statistics about the research variable is the list of averages or X bars of every variable used in the research model. After descriptive analysis, testing of hypothesis begins. And testing of hypothesis means answering the research questions about the relationships between the variables. So we perform correlations analysis, regressions analysis, and tests of significance to answer the research questions or to test the hypothesis. The model that we shall use onward will be this one. The topic is the impacts of self-confidence and organizational culture on the employee's performance as affected by demographic attributes. The questionnaire is always structured, which means that data to be collected is well thought out and formatted in a manner that it appears easy for the respondent to understand the questions and mode of response. Further, it is half organized for the researcher to post the answers easily from questionnaires to data matrix in SPSS. It means that when the questionnaire is structured, it means that the data or the answers coming from the respondents, they are placed in a manner which is well organized, and it will help the researcher to post the answers into the data matrix easily and quickly. To work in SPSS, the user begins with planning about the rows and columns of the data matrix. Data matrix is a simple table of rows and columns wherein every row handles one respondent or questionnaire, and each column records a variable or attribute or question. So number of rows depends on the number of filled questionnaires. The number of columns will consist of the demographic variables. Attributes of all variables are the questions on all the variables and the computed variables. An image of data matrix may appear like that. The rows 1, 2, 3, 4, these are assigned to every respondent. One questionnaire will be posted in this line and the second questionnaire will come in the second row. So likewise the columns, for example, the DSG designation as a demographic variable in column 1, education in column 2, gender in column 3, and likewise all the questions related to 5 or 4 variables in the research model. They can be 20 or 30 or 40 or more. They will start from here, question 1 to question N. At the end, once these questions are posted, the answers of these questions related to the variables are posted, then we compute the computed variables. Are, for example, if there are 5 questions about the variable 1, self-confidence, then their average will come in this column, variable 1. The computed variable means question 1 plus question 2 plus question n, and all the questions are placed like this and then divided by the number of questions, x bar average. So computed variables are the averages of the answers given by the respondents to a particular variable. In SPSS, once the decisions about the data matrix, columns and rows have been done, then we start using SPSS. SPSS is a software for the social researchers using numerical data in their research projects. It is a kind of toolkit which holds tools for file management, creating, computing variables, data input, editing, and so on. Before using SPSS, the user is expected to know statistics and its applications in the research process. The last sentence means that if the researcher has no idea about what is statistics, then learning about SPSS means nothing, and it will not be possible to understand SPSS and through SPSS the statistics, because the story goes otherwise. I can use a calculator when I know the mathematics or arithmetics. Likewise, I can use SPSS if I have some basic understanding of statistics and why am I using it. When we start SPSS, the view on the screen is like this, and here is the main menu bar, just for having an image of SPSS in your mind. You can see that this menu bar includes many toolkits like file. When you click it, a drop-down window comes and there are several functions. You can use any of them. In most of our analysis, we will use this file, toolkit, the analyze, and the transform. Transform is what we use for computing the computed variables or measuring the computed variables. SPSS works in 2 modes or views, variable view and the data view. First is the variable view. Variable view is something related to that SPSS is a simple and easy to learn program with 2 variable and data modes or views to operate. Variable mode, where the user defines structure of data matrix, number of columns and rows, and the variables including their names, labels, and length and type. Variable mode is something like this, and you can see, and we have already discussed this in the last slides, that data matrix is a simple table which includes variables and questions in every column, not the rows. But in variable mode, you get the screen showing the variables and questions as rows. And this is where we give the names or titles to our questions, like questions about the variables, and similarly the computed variables, they also come in different columns. In data view, where data is keyed into appropriate rows and columns, each row contains data from one respondent or questionnaire. Rows are equal to number of respondents. Every question comes in separate column plus columns for the computed variables. Columns correspond to the number of questions and computed variables. Here you can see that the data matrix, when we have computed the variables into computed variables like self-confidence, employee performance, organizational culture, and on this side are all the questions related to these variables, and these are the averages computed. So in data view, we key the data, we input the data, as well as compute the computed variables, and these computed variables are afterward used for analysis. When we say computed variables, it means that analysis are always performed on the variables and not their attributes. Demographic variables don't need this because their answers come in one question. However, all research variables are computed because each variable has many questions. And to compute the variables, we use the menu bar and activate the transform menu with drop down window, and in drop down window we click compute variable, and this window appears, and where you can see that we have placed all the questions with plus signs and then divided it by 9 because there are 9 questions. So after that you click OK, and computed variable is computed and placed at the end of the data matrix. Now, once the data matrix is complete and computed variables are also there, we start descriptive analysis, which means that we start answering the research questions. So we start with demographic outputs like the frequencies of respondents as per designation. Likewise, we can compute cross tabulation of education and gender. You can see these information or these statistics are only about the variables, and there is nothing about their interrelationships or relations with other variables in the model.
The descriptive statistics about the research variables include a lot of information explaining different aspects of each variable. Most important statistics are the mean and standard deviations, which are excessively used in the inferential analysis to measure relationships between the variables. Descriptive statistics about the research variables like self-confidence, employee performance, or organizational culture will include like these columns of minimum values, maximum values, mean values, as well as the standard deviations. Next level of analysis after descriptive analysis or descriptive computation of statistics about the research variables. In every social research, the second part is about the testing of hypotheses related to the connections or links between the research variables as given in the research model in the form of hypothesis. So mostly the first hypothesis is always about the correlations. Now correlation refers to the association of independent variables with the test variable or dependent variable. It is not about the cause and effect computation. It is rather just the existence of the relationship between the independent variable or variables with the research variable or test variable. Correlation analysis is the statistical procedure to compute statistics about the correlations of each variable in the model with every other variable. R values and P values are the decision points onto which the answers to the research questions are built. Here we can see in this table that self-confidence and organizational culture are highly correlated with the dependent variable of employee performance, and most of the researchers, as per our model, are more interested in the existence of association between the predictors and the test variable. Next question is always, after it has been established that there are correlations and significant correlations between the research variables, then the next question is about the cause and effect relationships. As in our case, the hypothesis will be the self-confidence and organizational culture. They are significantly changing the response or changing the response of dependent variable or bringing variation in the dependent variable. For this purpose, we run regressions, simple regressions as well as multiple regressions. As in our case, there are two independent variables, so we shall run multiple regression. But before that, let's have some understanding of regression itself. Regression analysis about the computations of the causal connections between the variables in the model. Regression analysis is concerned with this. Most of the social researchers begin with the simple or multiple regressions to answer the questions about the cause and effect connection of predictors and the test variable. R2, beta weight and P values stand out as the decision points. In every regression, simple or multiple, different tables come out as the output or results of regression analysis. Two tables are critical at the moment to have some idea. One is model summary, which shows R square, and R square is actually the coefficient of determination, or in simple terms, it tells that how much change has occurred in the test variable or dependent variable. For example, R square 0.496 means that around 50% of change in the dependent variable is because of the two independent variables. Now, to check the role of each independent variable separately, we come to the second or next table, coefficients of regression, where we can see that self-confidence has the insignificant p-value, which means that its role in the change process is insignificant. While organizational culture, it has the significant p-value, showing that it has the role not only at the sample level, but it can be used as the parameter or used as the estimate of parameter, true estimate. So we can see that the beta weight of self-confidence is also very low, while the one for organizational culture is powerful. So in regressions, these on the basis of these results, we make the decision that how far cause and effect relationship is existing and how powerful is it. As traditionally I was talking about before, that in social research, most of the beginners, they start with descriptive analysis, correlation analysis, regression analysis, and tests of significance. Tests of significance refer to the statistical procedures which we use to answer the research questions about the group mean differences between the respondents. For example, the question will be that whether the officers and staff members, two groups, whether they are replying with the same weight and meaning and value to a particular variable, whether their scores are scores are similar or they are different. If they are different, how much the differences are. We call it the questions about the group mean differences on respondents on different demographic variables. There can be group mean differences between the people of different designations like staff and officers, gender like male and female, experience based like seniors and juniors. So we have to know about the good significance of group mean differences. If they are there while making decisions, this information is always useful. So group averages first inform about, when we run the test, first we get the descriptive table which gives us group statistics, and therefrom we can develop our hypothesis by looking at what are the results. So here the hypothesis will be that the staff is scoring higher than the officers. So then we run the tests of significance, which means that the differences are visible from the descriptive table, but how far they are significant, how far they can be used to explain the population parameters. For this purpose, we run the test, independent samples test, and the results show that almost all the variables are affected by this group differences, meaning that all the results on all the variables are significant, and they are not talking only about the sample results, but also giving good estimates to talk about or to explain the population parameters. So it was the first video on SPSS, and the aim was only to provide a bird's eye view of what goes on when a social researcher uses numerical analysis in his or her research project, and what are the major milestones they have to come across. So I have tried to give you a holistic view of the process, starting from the questionnaire till the presentation of final results. So thank you very much, and see you in next video.